Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing the Mandalorian Adventures Clan of Two expansion. This is an expansion to the Mandalorian Adventures from Unexpected Games that came out last year. I think it was last year. I'm pretty sure it's 2024. But either way, the Mandalorian Adventures is a solo or cooperative experience in which you're going through the adventures of the Mandalorian, hence the name, as you basically try to take control of a variety of characters. I think there's like 8 characters in the base game. I don't remember exactly how many, but you're going to be utilizing those characters, playing actions. You have all these cards over here from these are the expansion characters, but you have all these cards with various numbers in them and abilities in them, and you're going to be playing those cards to various core action slots in order to take actions. Those primary actions are going to be moving around the board, attacking enemies. You're going to be doing a intel action, which is either looking at face down tokens or moving enemies, and then finally there's a planning action, which gives you cards from this cool extra planning deck, giving you extra things you can do. You're going to be balancing those actions, but when any individual slot gets to a total strength of 5, you're going to resolve an enemy event card, which is how the enemies operate. Your goal is to try to accomplish those mission objectives while balancing the fact that eventually bad things have to happen to you, and you have to time them well so that you are least disadvantaged by those bad things. That's the core idea of the original game. The original game had a lot of other things going on. There was a hidden trader mode. There were additional the mercenary mode. We had all these side missions, effectively these sideboards you placed over a mission sideboard to give you variable mission setups. I think there's there was 16. There was 16 originally, but then they added. There were a lot of different ways you can configure things to mix up the game state, but that was the core general idea of the game. Cooperative or solo, take control of characters, go through the adventures of the Mandalorian while trying to balance the good versus the bad things that have to happen in each game. The expansion is going to continue to build off of that. If you want my thoughts on the original Mandalorian Adventures, you can check out my full review on that. Overall, I thought it was a fun experience that did have you going through the adventure of the Mandalorian, so if you like the theme of what's going on, you'll definitely be invested there. I did think it was a little bit on the luck dependent side as far as, meaning I shouldn't say luck dependent, there's a lot of control in the game, but it was definitely on the lighter side as far as the game goes, with the complexity would be added through all the things the game gave you as you went through stuff, and I didn't love the hidden trader mode, and as you get more complicated in the game, there were things that I didn't necessarily love. We'll dive in more into my thoughts and opinions here, because it's going to be very relevant to Clan of Two. But what does Clan of Two add to the experience? Well, the first thing it adds, because we're going to tell you what it adds, what the new things you can expect to see in this expansion are, and then I'll tell you my thoughts on the new expansion, who it's for and who it might not be for. The expansion is going to start by adding 4 new missions. The original game had 4 missions, although again, because of those sideboards, you can mix and match. So it gave you 4 missions, but with variable configurations to give you more variable ongoing gameplay. But you had 4 core missions, and the expansion is going to add 4 new missions. We have the Liberation of Caldan over here. We have the Liberation of Caldan. We have, and each mission, by the way, has a little bit of a, flavor comic going on between them. We have the Tragedy. Then we have, from there, we have the Believer. And then finally, we have the last mission over here, the Rescue. So you're going to have 4 new missions being added to the gameplay. I'll give you my thoughts on all these things soon. I'm just telling you what's being added first. Then we also have just more cards. So for example, there's going to be more of these planning cards. You're going to shuffle into the planning deck. More event decks. You're going to shuffle into the event deck. There were a few new characters, nothing too crazy. A few new character cards, nothing too crazy. 1 or 2 replacement cards, again, not too much of a big deal there. There's going to be 4 new characters. So you're going to get new characters in the game, and if you got to the part in the original Mandalorian Adventures where you unlock character abilities, these abilities are different in that you don't flip them when you use them. The original Mandalorian Adventures, the characters had these one-time use abilities you can use across the course of each game. These characters give you ongoing abilities. So just to give you an example, Ahsoka Tano over here can only attack threats in her space, which doesn't sound like an ability, that sounds like a limitation, but once per turn, before or after you perform an action, you can move 1 space. So it gives you extra movement, but with a limitation around who you can attack, which is both fun and also a limitation. There's, especially in this new characters over here, we have some new abilities that will impact that, which I guess is a good time to talk about the new abilities this expansion adds. We have new abilities on the enemies. We have fast, enemies that move twice instead of just once. We have vigilant over here, cannot be, moves in extra space, not twice. So whatever the movement is, they get to move 1 further. We have vigilant, which enemies cannot be disrupted and its abilities cannot be ignored. Duel, which is basically an entirely new mechanic, kind of like a boss-like mechanic, where every time you attack them, you draw a card from this duel deck and it impacts the combat. So for example, disrupt the action slot with the lowest strength, and the enemy blocks 2 damage. Then move the enemy 2 spaces away from you. This duel deck gives a much more vibrant feel to the enemies you're facing off against, making them actually feel like a threat. Like in the original Mandalorian Adventures, like even facing off against like big bads, like there's that one It's one of those the modification missions you had where you can add that giant lumbering beast that has 15 health, and that's terrifying, but that just still feels like a larger health enemy. The duel cards really make the enemies feel like more nuanced opponents, which I think you only really otherwise got from the last mission in the Mandalorian Adventures, because you couldn't kill the I can't remember his name. You couldn't kill the boss in the last mission, but again, these give you a lot more feeling to actually facing off against an enemy. And then we have Parting Blow, which is the one that's relevant to Ahsoka over here, because Parting Blow deals a damage to an enemy in its space when you defeat it, which for some enemies you can shoot from adjacent or you can attack from adjacent, but Ahsoka Tano can only attack in that space, so that doesn't work well against her. So those are kind of the main things you got added. Let's talk about one more thing. There's one more thing over here, which is, well, two more things, I guess. You have these event decks. These are going to be more event cards. These are more complicated event cards that can be added to your event deck or to replace other cards that will make things more complicated. These just are harder events to deal with, and these ones in particular, when they resolve, some events, not these ones, some events, when in particular, when they resolve, they're going to go ahead and take up that event slot, giving you something else that's going to make it harder when you play cards there in some way. So it's ongoing effects as well. And then lastly, we have two more mission boards, or, well, two more. This is from something else. We have two more mission boards. Nope, that's from something else. We have two more mission boards over here. These two over here, these give you 4 more mission. Again, the way these work is you're going to put them over the side, giving you variability to the experience. And these come with optional hidden motives. Hidden motives is the hidden trader variant. And so you could have that if you want, but you don't have to, which I like because I didn't love the hidden trader element of this game. But that's basically all the new stuff that Clan of Two is adding, which is a decent amount of stuff. New characters, new maps, new additional cards, the duel mode, new abilities, new enemies, new event cards for enhanced difficulty. That's all the things that's going to be added. Which means it's time to tell you my thoughts on the expansion. And I specifically haven't populated this map because I'm going to be going through all the pages over here. But let's go through the things one at a time. First of all, the new maps over here. I thought the new maps really did escalate the nuance of the actual game. You know, if you look at the original game, the original 4 maps, I don't know if I felt particularly strongly that any one map was more of a challenge. They all felt fairly open as far as things go. I'm trying to remember through all of them, but I think they all felt like I just replayed through the original game before diving into this, but yeah, they all felt pretty open as far as things go. Yes, there's some small nuanced difficulty differences to them, but they generally felt pretty straightforward as far as how the maps are structured. They're large open spaces with nothing crazy going on to change that up. Some small things going on, but nothing too crazy. These maps over here definitely escalate the interestingness of what you're doing. You have these like kind of side pathways you're gonna have to go to. You have this like pathway down the hall over here. I do think the prison map, that was possibly the most interesting, but again, they generally felt pretty open. This one feels more interesting as far as how the board is going to develop. I think that in general, the next mission as well, this one felt the most straightforward, but even then, it is more complicated than the original maps. I personally really liked this map over here. The Believer has a new sniper mechanic where effectively some players are off the board and they are tracking their spots using this sniper token, and this sniper token moves and attacks like a regular character, so to speak, but it can't be attacked by an enemy. Because if you think about it, you're tracking your sights across the board, you're attacking, but the enemies don't really attack you in the same way. So you're kind of playing support, which is a really cool feeling that the game adds to the game, which I thought that was really well done overall as far as what that adds. And then the last map really feels like you're fighting in a bunch of corridors because you are fighting in a bunch of corridors. This one really mixed up. Again, it's very linear, so it kind of gives you a little less choice as far as how to engage with things, but it does give you a very different feel, and I appreciate the different feel that it gives you. The events, as far as the extra difficulty those add, I don't necessarily love that, and I'll explain that in my overall summary of final thoughts. But I don't have a problem with them. It's nice to have that option, but I don't necessarily love this game with more difficulty just based on the way I enjoyed the game. The new characters were great. I really like the new characters. I like the fact that in general, the characters do have a good different feeling with their decks, but giving you these ongoing abilities, I love that aspect of having a regular ability that is constantly in play, which is nice because otherwise you're relying on the feel of certain cards, and some characters in the original game definitely felt more different than others, but I really like these. I thought that the ongoing constant ability makes that character feel different. Like even Ahsoka, like I just mentioned over there, the fact that she gets that extra movement but has to be in the space really makes her feel like more of a dual fighter all the time, not just when you're playing certain cards. So I like that addition to the game. The new character abilities or the enemy abilities, wherever that card went, the new enemy abilities, most of them don't really care for. I think that some of them feel like you're trying to get something else in. Like Vigilant feels like at this point you're trying to come up with abilities. Fast is okay, didn't really change with the game significantly. because character movement is not something I can heavily plan around anyway. Parting Blow, you have to plan around. That's a nice one. It's kind of an alternate to whatever it was called, to Grapple, where you leave the space. So it's kind of the same idea to a certain extent. I thought Parting Blow was a nice little addition, but Duel is excellent. Duel really makes you feel like there are boss characters in this game in a way the original game didn't really do. And I didn't really touch upon it, but the Duel cards even give you hints on the back of them as far as things you might want to play. Like, you might want to play 2 or lower. You might want to play a 3+. Like, this 2 or lower, if I had to guess, probably reduces the damage to 1. Let's see. Spawn 1 reinforcement, then blocks all damage except 2. Okay, so not necessarily 1, but it's telling you that, hey, you know, playing a 4 on this card might be wasted because the enemy's anyway is going to block most damage. So it gives you small little hints as to the pose of the enemy, so to speak, but ultimately I thought this really gave you a feeling of boss enemies that you didn't get from the original game. And then lastly, I think those are the main things that I wanted to cover. Oh, the new missions. New missions variability. These are just new missions to go through. I have not played through all of these yet, but from the ones I have, I like the mission variants that the game gives you. It does make playing through a mission, replaying a mission, feel different. And so the ways you can mix and match, I don't know if I feel a huge amount of strength in the mixing and matching, but you're going to feel it more so in this compared to the original. Again, one of the downsides of the original game is that even when playing with mission combinations, because the maps felt fairly similar, it didn't necessarily strongly impact the way you played the game, versus in this one, because the maps feel so different, like trying to play through some of those missions like that hallway is going to totally change up your experience as far as how you play through it, or the sniper overhead. So there's more change to the way mixing and matching happens here, and a stronger feeling there than the original. Which brings me to my kind of summary, final thoughts on this one. I enjoyed the Mandalorian Adventures. Where I thought the Mandalorian Adventures was weakest, for me personally, is the more complicated and difficult the game tries to get. To me, I enjoyed Mandalorian Adventures as a light experience where you're going through those stories and those adventures and you're playing through it and just generally having a good time. The more you added complicated enemies, like there are veteran difficulty enemies and all that you could add to the game, the more you mixed up things by trying to make it more difficult, the more it felt less fun to me because of the fact that there's less control than I would like than compared to, like, you know, a deeper, heavier game. Means that as you make it more difficult, I just feel like I'm going to lose less. I'm going to lose more, but not because of anything that I can really strongly control for. I can only do so much to play the optimal game, and after that, it's just how bad things are going to be. And so, to me, I enjoyed it most as a lighter experience, and the more difficult you made things, or the more complicated was not necessarily a problem. More complicated was interesting. Some of the side missions you had in the original game, that was nice to have something else to do to focus on. But the more difficult it is, it's just the less fun I personally found it. As far as Clan of Two is going to add a lot of fun things to the game that mix up your experience. If you like the original Mandalorian Adventures, I think there's a lot here to like. I really like the new missions as far as the complexity, not inherently difficulty, the complexity and differential feeling that the new missions provide. I thought that was very well done and very strongly done. As far as the new characters, that's great. I love those abilities they have. That duel aspect, that one's a little mixed because of the fact that I love the complexity of the duel aspect, but it does make those enemies you're fighting against harder, and for me, I didn't necessarily love harder in this game. And that goes to these cards over here. The same way I don't really use the veteran enemies that much, I don't really use these cards either that much, because I enjoy winning this game by playing through a lighter experience where I can control as much as I can, and then ultimately I hopefully beat the mission, and it didn't necessarily feel fun to lose. Like, there's many games where I don't mind losing because I'm trying to play the best game I can, and then either I can power through or not. Because I feel less of a stronger sense of agency, because I do view this as a little bit of a lighter experience on the decision space, when you just make things harder, it just means that I lost and now I just have to restart and replay and hope that the odds work in my favor. There was less of that feeling of control. So to me, I like this more as a narrative journey where I feel just challenged enough that I'm like, look at me, I'm doing things and winning, and I don't like it as let's level up the difficulty. So again, the events, not for me, and the duel cards, I love what they do, but also those are harder fights. But overall, I think that they give you more of a cinematic feeling to facing off against certain enemies, and that I did appreciate. So overall, I think Clan of Two is a good expansion for those who want more and varied experience to their Mandalorian adventures. I do think that some of the aspects are not necessarily for me and may or may not be for you, but overall I think it's a good, well-packaged expansion. I'm going to rate this one a 4 out of 5. And then for context, just to make sure you know my expansion rating system, my rating for Mandalorian Adventures is still a 3.5 out of 5. I do rate expansions based on how much they add to the experience and what they do for the experience. And I think as far as if you like Mandalorian Adventures, Adventures, I think this really does a good job mixing up the gameplay, giving you more content, and giving you overall what I felt was a slightly better experience, a slightly more varied and intricate experience built on that same system. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.